And we're live. Welcome to House Money Fantasy MLB Breakdown Podcast. I'm Rob Schwarz, joined by no one tonight. No one could get on. So I'm doing this solo. I don't know if you listened to yesterday's podcast, but I had a little bit of a coughing issue and it has gotten worse. I'm going to try and get through this without having any coughing attacks or too many coughing breaks here in between. With me just being on here by myself, obviously I'm going to be tackling both home and away teams. We're going to do it just like we always do. I'm going to go game by game. We have 11 games total on the slate tomorrow, 4 on the early only slate, and then 7 on the main slate. So I'm going to go through the first 4 somewhat quickly. Played those today, and we were right on a lot of the stuff that we talked about last night. The Cubs-Brewers game was definitely a game to stack. We talked about the Mariners being a game to stack. Michael Wacha didn't do as good as I had hoped, but he was definitely playable, and I think he was the way to go with the ability to pay up at the for the bigger bats. Late slate still going on, so I'm not really going to go into too much detail with that. I do know that the Yankees game, I wrote it up in the article today. That was definitely a good stack to play. I'm trying to think off the top of my head everything that I wrote. The Cincinnati-Baltimore stack did not go the way that I had hoped. I think it was 2-0 in that game. Some one-offs. I know Aaron Judge had a good game, again, with the Yankees stack. We had mentioned him. I don't know. Just go back and if you want to check it out. I know for the most part we were on for the majority of the guys that we were playing today, or that we recommended today. We were definitely on those guys. So doesn't always go our way. Perfect example right now. On my main slate, I have 2 lineups that are cashing. I only played 3 lineups. I unfortunately did not have time to set lineups because work. Shockingly, I have a day job. Work got in the way, and I couldn't get my lineup set before lineup lock. So I was only able to play 1 tournament. Actually, I take that back. I played 3 tournaments, but I only used 3 lineups, and boom, I'm like in dead last with 34 total points. So that just goes to show you how you can have some really good lineups and some really bad lineups when you're setting your GPP lineups. But you just got to trust the system. You got to trust the processes that you come up with. And you just got to hope that, you're going to hit big on one of them, and that's really the key. So, all right. Well, let's dive right in. So the first game on the early slate right now is showing some rain in the forecast, 63% chance of rain. At the Toronto Blue Jays. On the mound for Boston is Chris Sale, and then on the mound for Toronto is Marco Estrada. I'm a White Sox fan. That's no mystery here. I love Chris Sale, but I don't know. He's not as, don't get me wrong, he's great, but even last year I was all on top of it saying he was better than Kershaw just because I was being a homer. He's not Kershaw. He lets up a lot of hard hit balls, and he is the best pitcher on this slate, on this early morning slate. But at 13-3 on DraftKings, and let's see what his price is on FanDuel, 11-4 on FanDuel. I'm not going to be looking at using him, especially with the weather issues. If they're going to end up having weather issues. So we're not gonna. I'm not telling you not to play Sale. Sale's definitely a guy you can play. Looking at Toronto, They got some guys there that definitely can strike out. So the strikeout upside is definitely there for sale. Somewhere in the 8 to 10 range could definitely be seen there. Toronto is 23rd right now as far as strikeouts go for the team, a little bit over 8.5 strikeouts per game. So definitely worth looking at. I just think he's too expensive for me here. The wind is blowing in as of right now at 16 miles per hour. We'll have to check that weather before the lineups actually lock and see what happen. If you are going to play any of the Toronto bats, it's not really anywhere that I would target just because it is Chris Sale. Kendrys Morales is probably the only one that I might consider just because he's a cheaper guy and has potential to hit the ball out of the park. Any of these guys can take Sale yard. I just really don't know who you can trust as far as throwing them out there, especially with some of the other guys that are on the slate. It's only a 4-game slate, but there's some other teams that I'd rather stack. Boston is favored. They have a minus 153 right now. So, again, Sale is worth a look, and I'll probably have a little bit of exposure to him for just the smaller slate. But there's another guy for the Boston bats against Marco Estrada. Estrada's got some strikeout potential. Unfortunately, are the hardest team to strike out right now in baseball. I just don't know what to do with Boston. Like, one day they'll put up 6-7 runs, and the next day, like today, they get shut out and put up a goose egg. So I guess if anything, that would be the time to go back to them. Mitch Moreland will be in play with the lefty-righty stack, and Andrew Benintendi will be in play too. Those are probably the only two guys I might consider. Probably Mitch Moreland as either one of them is probably worth a one-off, actually. So that's it for that game. Let's move on to the Cleveland Twins game. Right now, that game was they were supposed to play tonight, and that game got postponed. On the mound for Cleveland, we have Trevor Bauer, and they're at Minnesota against Irvin Santana. Cleveland's favored right now with minus 140. I'm probably not playing either pitcher here on this slide. In fact, I know I'm not, because I'm either going to play Chris Sale or I'm going to play one of the other guys that's coming up here in a minute. So I'm not going to look at either of them. They both have some strikeout potential, not huge numbers, but anywhere between 6 and 7 strikeouts is probably their max, though. Cleveland right now is projected for 4.4 runs, and the Twins, Vegas has them at 3.7. I'm not excuse me. There's number one. I'm not really going to look at anyone on the Twins side. Joe Mauer is just garbage, even with the lefty-righty stack. I'm not looking at him. Max Kepler, I guess, is possible if you wanted to look at that. But I'm probably going to look more on the Cleveland side, even though Santana's been playing really well this year, or pitching really well this year. On the Cleveland side, I like Santana. I like Lindor. He's playing well. Michael Brantley's in play, and that's about it for me on that. I would probably not do any more than a 3-man stack here. I'm not a big fan of Edwin Encarnacion against Santana. So, yeah, Carlos Santana, Francisco Lindor, and Michael Brantley. So the 1 through 3 lineup right there is probably the only one that I'm going to be looking at. Right now, the wind is blown out in that game, so could see some potential power going out. The next game we have, this is one of the stacks that we recommended, and it did do well, was the Tampa Bay Rays. I mentioned it being kind of a sneaky stack, and they did great tonight. I think they put up 8 runs. So the Rays are slightly favored at -110. For Detroit, we have Daniel Norris, and on the mound for the Rays, we have Erasmo Ramirez. All right, there's number 2. What should we make the over-under? Let's make it 10. The over-under for me getting through this podcast with these coughing fits. Oh, and by the way, we had that bet last night, and me and TJ, and maybe that's why he couldn't get on the pod tonight. I'll have to check with him. And I'm just joking. He's not scared of having to pay up. But he said during the beginning of the week he wasn't going to be able to record tonight. But he had Andrew Triggs, and I had Shelby Miller, and Shelby Miller had 44 FanDuel points, and Andrew Triggs, they took him out early. We don't really know why. How close that was, and how close it was with them being taken out, or with them taking him out. I think he only had like 82 or 85 pitches for the night, and let up really any runs. I think he let up only 1 run, so he wasn't really in trouble. I don't know. I didn't think he was on a pitch count, but hey, it is what it is, and I picked the right guy, and I won, so that's all that matters to me. All right, so getting back to this game, we have, again, it's Detroit versus the Rays. Daniel Norris is a lefty, so again, the Tampa Bay Rays are worth a look here. You got Sousa leading off, most likely. He's going to be in play. Evan Longoria is going to be in play. I think he hit a home run today, or he had a really good game. You're probably not going to look at playing Brad Miller with the lefty-lefty matchup, but they're probably going to put Ricky Weeks in, so he's going to be in play. And then I also like Tim Beckham. So just to recap for the Rays, if you're going to stack them, and I do like them, and again in this early slate, we got Sousa, Longoria, Weeks, and Beckham. Let's see. Just a little look here at Daniel Norris. Not someone I'm going to be playing as a pitcher, but oh, wow. Hold on. You might have some reverse splits here. Yeah. Actually, no, he's just pitching really well. Might be difficult to get these Tampa guys in, actually. Oh, wait a second. Nope. Does have some reverse splits. So actually, we're going to want to attack him with lefties. Glad I looked at this. This is kind of one of the things we do. We don't get a lot of prep time for the podcast, so it's kind of those things where we work through it. It's kind of what's better about having at least 2 guys on the pod, so you can kind of talk things out. But yeah, so his lefty stats here. Up against lefties, he's got a 412 WOBA and 500 slugging percentage against lefties. So is what he's letting up. Versus only a 274 against righties as far as his WOBA goes. So we're definitely going to want to look at lefties here. So that's actually going to – I'm still going to like Longoria, but that's going to put Brad Miller back in it. Surprised that they're putting the righties in. I mean, I know typically you got the lefty-righty matchups and you like that. I still kind of like Ricky Weeks, and I still kind of like Tim Beckham. But I guess it does put Brad Miller back in play here, so you can consider him as well. Here on the Detroit side. There's number 3. All right. Okay, so on the Detroit Bats, they are going up against Erasmo Ramirez. I'm going to pull up his stats here. Detroit's kind of been another, kind of like Boston, kind of been up and down as far as you never kind of know what you're going to get. They started out really slow. Miguel Gonzalez is kind of, I'm sorry, Miguel Cabrera. Gosh, Miguel Cabrera has been doing a lot better lately. I'd prefer him against lefties, but he's always worth a look, especially on the smaller slate. Let's see here. Okay, so yeah, Ramirez has some normal splits. Against lefties, 377 is his WOBA this year. Last year is at 374. So he's definitely a guy we can pick on a little bit here. He's only let up one home run so far this year. But he's only pitched one game, it looks like. So it's not too good on his part. His xFIP against lefties is 415. We're definitely going to want to target lefties. Wow, yes. Right now his home run per 9 innings is at 3. That's going to obviously come down, but he must have had a really bad game and got pulled early. So unfortunately, Detroit really doesn't have a lot of lefties. They're a very righty heavy team. You can look at Victor Martinez. I think, on FanDuel I have pulled up here. It's catcher. Alex Avila, I don't know. Not really a big fan of him. Doesn't really, not a sexy pick. I mean, he can hit a home run every once in a while, but I'd rather have Victor Martinez. I don't think you can stack this team with the righty on righty matchup. I think it's just going to be a little bit too difficult. Looking at the righty, I mean, actually, his xFIP against righties is 367, Ramirez. So, I mean, his WOBA is only 205, though. So, yeah, I pretty much stand by what I say. His hard hit rate for righties is only at 25%, too. So, don't stack them, and maybe just use Victor Martinez as a one-off. And I'd rather to our last game on the early slate. There's number 4. Los Angeles Angels at the Houston Astros. The Angels are throwing out Matt Shoemaker. And Houston is throwing out Lance McCullers. McCullers is actually the guy that I'll be probably having my most exposure to if I play the early slate only. The guy's just playing out of his mind this year. Yeah, even though the Angels don't strike out a lot, McCullers could still see 8 to 10 strikeouts in this game. The Houston's projected for 4.9 runs, where Vegas has the Angels at 3.7. I actually like Matt Shoemaker, so I don't know how much I would target the Astros here. I think I'd rather stack people. I think I'd rather stack guys from the Cleveland Twins game and also from not the Tigers, but the Rays side and the Tigers-Rays game. I'm not looking at playing. We talked about this in the podcast last night with TJ. The Angels really are just garbage right now with their bats outside of Mike Trout. Mike Trout is always in play. He probably is someone I'll look at putting in my lineups, even though I'm playing McCullers, just because at 8.9K on FanDuel, you're going to have a lot of room to make a lineup work, and I think you can work in a 5K Mike Trout, no problem. If I am going to be playing anyone on Houston, I'm going to be playing Josh Reddick again. He had a great night tonight. I think he hit. I know he had a home run. I don't know what else he did, but he had a good night tonight. Probably looking at playing Brian McCann as well, and that's probably it. If I'm not going to pay up for George Springer with the righty matchup. I think with George Springer at 4.3K on FanDuel, I'd rather just pay the extra $700 for Mike Trout. So I'm not going to game stack or team stack Houston, but I might have a couple one and McCann. All right, so that does it for the early slate. Let's move on to the main slate. And the first game that I have here in that one is the Philadelphia Phillies versus the New York Mets. We have Noah Syndergaard on the mound for the Mets, and the Mets are favored at minus 175. And you have Aaron Nola on the mound for the Phillies. Syndergaard is definitely in play. He's probably the top pitcher on the slate. I haven't looked all the way down yet, but I'm going to bet that he is. Give me 1 second here. Strasburg's on the slate too. So it's going to be between Syndergaard and Strasburg as the cream of the crop guys here. But Philly likes to strike out. They are 25th right now as a team in strikeouts. Let's see. And they're right in the middle as far as their team WOBA is 313, ranked 15th. In fact, that's smack in the middle. So that doesn't really scare me there. Their lineup hasn't been as good as it was the beginning of the season. Vegas only has Philadelphia projected for 2.8 runs. The other problem, though, is Nola's not a bad pitcher either, and they have the Mets projected for 3.8 runs. So I'm not really a big fan of the bats in this game. Syndergaard, again, is definitely in play. I'm not targeting any of the Phillies. As far as the Mets go, Jay Bruce is always in play for me as a one-off against right-handed pitching, and Lucas Duda, if he plays, could be another guy you can consider. I know TJ likes Curtis Granderson. He's just not doing anything for me right now, so I'm staying off of him until he proves me wrong. So yeah, probably just Jay Bruce in this game and Syndergaard. All right, so let's move on to the next game. Right now, this game looks to have some weather concerns, and it's the Baltimore Reds game. I cannot seem to get this game right. Maybe it'll rain out, and I don't have to worry about it. Right now, it's Wade Miley on the mound for Baltimore and Scott Feldman on the mound for the Reds. 4.7 run total Vegas has for Baltimore, and 4.4 run total for the Reds. I mentioned earlier it was a 2-0 game tonight, so yeah, not really. Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be too upset because Vegas didn't get it right tonight either. I'm probably going to go back to the well, though. I hate saying, but that's what we have to do. We have to do that. We have to have a short memory, and we have to be willing to just, again, trust the process. Like everything said to play this stack, and it just didn't work out the way that the numbers were saying it should. So let's take a look here at Wade Miley. Wade Miley's a lefty. So if we're going to look here, we're not going to be playing Votto. I mean, he's good, but I prefer him with a lefty-righty matchup. Let's see, Wade Miley right now, what was 272 through 2 games this year, but looking at his last, it's really going to come up. His there's number 5. We're halfway there. His average that he let up last year was 299, ERA of 5.83, 461 the year before that. Right now his ERA is 261. So it's definitely going to regress. So I'm not going to really be concerned here with what his 2017 stats are showing so far. The guy's 30 years old. He's not. It's not like, he's a younger guy who finally found his stuff. So with that being said, I'm going to look at Adam Duvall again. Love that matchup. I'm going to look at Suarez, and I'm going to look at Cozart. Those are the three guys I like the most. Votto, I'll play in cash games. I'm not probably going to look at playing him, though, in tournaments. So on the red side, they're throwing out Scott Feldman. Feldman is a righty. So that means we can throw in Chris Davis again. He'll be able to be used here. I said not to use him tonight. That was probably a good choice. So Scott Feldman, yeah, definitely want to focus on left-handed bats here with him. 371 WOBA, 377 WOBA last year. His xFIP right now is 569 against lefties. 470 was his xFIP last year. His K9 is a little bit below average, so not really worrying about his strikeout potential. So again, at Chris Davis at a one-off, and that's probably it. I'm not going to play any of the other guys here. We'll have to pay attention to see what happens with Seth Smith. I guess if he comes back, if you don't mind playing a guy coming off injury, you can probably play him too. But if I can't stack them, I'm not going to look at it. I'm just going to look at Chris Davis as a one-off. And the Reds will, again, the 4, 5, and 6 hitters to me are a little small stack I like. Going to the next game. I just looked here, and wow, Washington put up 14 runs today. I did mention that they were a stack that I liked. I really only liked been fine. And looks like Zimmerman also had a good game. So looking here, again, Washington's got Strasburg on the mound. I mentioned him earlier. He's going to be the other guy to look at outside of Syndergaard. Strasburg and the Nationals are favored at -170. They're going up against the A's. I'm sorry, not the A's. Wrong color A. They're going up against the Atlanta Braves, who not really a team that strikes out a lot. Definitely not a team that scares you, though, either. They can't really generate runs. In fact, Vegas has them projected for 3.3 runs tomorrow against Strasburg. I don't know. Right now, I think Syndergaard's still probably the better play just because the Phillies like to strike out more. So I'd probably go with that and try to work in some Washington bats. The wind has here right now, they're showing 11-mile-per-hour winds going out towards left field. And the Nationals are facing R.A. Dickey, who is not someone that really scares me, and I love the lefty-righty matchup again, which we mentioned. Just a ton of righty action here for the Nationals. So your main three guys are in play again. You got Eaton, Harper, Murphy, and Matt Wieters is in play as well. And if you need a cheaper guy, you can throw out Zimmerman. It's a righty-righty matchup, but he is coming off of a good game. Probably not going to go back-to-back games with home runs, so he might want to just kind of let that go and focus on the three lefties and Wieters if you wanted the 4-stack. If you're playing Strasburg, then just play Strasburg and the three lefties. No one on the Braves stand out to me outside of Freddie Freeman, who I'm always going to consider. Looks like they're trying to get Matt Kemp back in the lineup, but I prefer him against lefties. So Yeah, Freeman at this point, and that's probably it for me on that side against Strasburg. Going on to the next game, we got the Kansas City Royals at the Texas Rangers. I stacked the Rangers in one of my lineups for this morning, and that did me absolutely no good. I think they lost 9-1. Oakland was not the team I would have thought to stack, but wow, definitely proved me wrong. So Kansas City's favored here at -113. They got Danny Duffy on the mound against Andrew Kashner. Right now, Vegas has the Royals projected for 4.7 runs and the Rangers projected for 4.4. Not looking at either of these pitchers here to play. Just other pitchers that are more appealing to me, I think, in this slate. Danny Duffy at 9.4K on FanDuel going up against the Rangers, who I think are either second or third for most runs as a team per game. So, yeah, I'm not going to look at playing him at that price tag. I held it off. I thought it was coming. Thought it was number 6 there. Looking at bats, though, let's see. I'm a big fan of Mike Moustakas, so I'm probably going to consider him. I prefer Salvador Perez against lefties. He had a good night against Bumgarner tonight. He was also someone we suggested. So, yeah, on the Kansas City Royals side, I think Moustakas is the only guy I'm going to consider. Maybe Brandon Moss is a one-off down there, too. They have a lot of lefty-righty matchups, but Alex Gordon just isn't doing it for me. And Eric Hosmer just, I don't know. I think I said he was good at baseball a few podcasts ago, and I'm starting to think that I had that wrong. As far as the Rangers go, not looking at Mazzara here with the lefty-lefty matchup. Carlos Gomez is in play as a one-off, and Mike Napoli is in play as a one-off. I'm not game stacking this, though. So Danny Duffy currently has a 415 xFIP for the season. His K9 is under 8, 7.7 for the season. It's probably about the best he'll be. He had a better year last year at 9.4 K9, but he likes to put guys on base too, and he lets up home runs. So I guess if that's the case, maybe I will consider stacking him. Let's look at his splits real quick. So how does he do against righties here? All right, so he's got a 397 xFIP against righties. He's got a decent whip. So let's check out his WOBA here. So far this year, his WOBA was 232, but if we look at last year, his WOBA was 325. I probably will have some Texas exposure, just again because they seem to be able to score. And if that's the case, then I will consider Mazzara. So we'll change that here. We'll go with Gomez, Mazzara, and Napoli. Those are the 3 guys I'm going to probably look at playing here. That's about it, though. Going to the Cardinals versus the Brewers. Cardinals are throwing out Carlos Martinez, and the Brewers are throwing out Zach Davies. Cardinals are favored at -121. I think they won today at 2-1 score for that one. Martinez is interesting. He's a little bit pricey for FanDuel at 9.3. I think if that was the case, I'd rather just pay up for Strasburg. But the Brewers do like to strike out a lot. Let's see. I think they were the worst, but now I think they're like third from worst. Second from worst. They're averaging 10 strikeouts a game. So the strikeout upside is definitely going to be there then for Carlos Martinez, and it's hard to take a pitcher though against the Brewers. So I don't think I'm going to be playing him. Like I said, I'd rather just pay up for Strasburg there. He is a righty though, and that means we can throw out Eric Thames, who's just been on fire. Jonathan Villar is going to be a guy you can throw out there as well, and then Travis Shaw, who's now hit home runs in righties. So those are the three guys I like there. Excuse me. There's number 6. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, and then on the Cardinals side, Dexter Fowler had a game, 2 home runs. In fact, he's the reason why they won in that 2-1 game. The only guys I like in that game, though, are Fowler again and Matt Carpenter going up against Zach Davies. Those are the only 2 guys I'm going to throw out there. Not looking to game stack this one. The Cardinals have just looked absolutely awful. And as bad as Zach Davies is, I just don't trust that Cardinals offense. So we can move on to the next one here. Let's see. Next game on the slate, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks going up against the San Diego Padres. Patrick Corbin is on the mound for the Diamondbacks, and Clayton Richard is on the mound for the Padres. Not a fan of either pitcher. You can definitely attack these guys. The Diamondbacks are favored for 3.9 runs, though, and is at 3.7. So it looks like they think it's going to be close, but I really think you can attack Clayton Richard here. If the lineups stay as what I'm showing here as a projected lineup, you're going to want Pollock. If Chris Owings bats second, he's definitely going to be there. Definitely going to be in play for me there. Looks like they're possibly flipping Peralta and Owings to get the 3 righties at the top here. If that's the case, you can go Pollock, Owings, and Goldschmidt, and then you can throw out Yasmani Tomas. And those 4 guys are going up against Clayton Richard. I think are definitely a game stack I'll be looking at using. I think TJ's writing the article tomorrow, and I'm curious to see if he agrees with me here. I'm throwing out the Diamondback stack. I mentioned it today, and again, the game was still going when I started the podcast, and I think it was 0-0. So definitely not looking like that game stack was in play here. But like I said, you don't win all of them. That's part of the game. You gotta keep grinding. You gotta understand that you're not always going to come out on top. The thing is, though, is as long as you're coming out on top more than you're losing, then that's really what we need to do. Yeah, so looking at Clayton Richards' splits, he's got a 367 WOBA against righties. He's already let up 4 home runs to right-handed bats this year. So, yeah, definitely going to be stacking that Arizona Diamondbacks team. And definitely going to be looking at the righties. Brandon Drury is also another guy. If you wanted somebody a little bit cheaper, he's got power. So you can throw him out there as well. Right. Well, that brings us actually to our final game. Went a lot faster with just me. Hopefully, I know it's probably not quite as in-depth. I know when TJ and I talk, it gives us a chance to do a little bit more research, and we bounce ideas off each other, which sparks other ideas. And, yeah, it's definitely better as a 2-man podcast, but we want to bring you content and make sure that we're getting you the information that you need. So this brings me to the pitcher that I probably like the most outside of the big 2 with Strasburg and Syndergaard. So if I'm not paying up for those guys, I'm probably going to go with James Paxton. Definitely has some K upside. Not quite like you're going to see with Strasburg or Syndergaard, but he can put up, at least 6 to 7 strikeouts. I know the Athletics did well today, but I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to go with him too, going up against Chris Davis with the lefty righty matchup. But I just think out of the other guys on the slate, Paxton probably has the most upside as far as not being one of the top guys. Where's Oakland at for? Yeah, Oakland's 19th right now in strikeouts. So I could see him probably getting 6 or 7 strikeouts, and that would be enough as long as he lets up no more than 3 runs and gets the win. That would probably be enough to warrant playing him over Strasburg or Syndergaard. So real quick, on the other side of the mound, Cesar Valdez is pitching for the A's. That's going to put guys for the Mariners in play here. It's going to put Dyson in play. It's going to put Seager in play. Leonis Martin's going to be in play. And Nelson Cruz is always in play for me. It's not a lefty. He mashes lefties, but I'm okay with it. Looking on the Oakland side, Raji Davis is going to be in. I'm Paxton Lynch. Oh, my God. This podcast. James Paxton. Totally different sport altogether. And like I said, Chris Davis is going to be in play. Yeah, they have a ton of righties. Josh Figley is going to be in play, their catcher, at 2.0 minimum salary. If he's going to hit the lineup and be in the 6 hole, he's definitely going to be a guy to look at if you're not using Paxton as the pitcher. Wind right now is kind of going out. It's going out towards right field, but kind of aiming towards the foul line. So, yeah, I kind of talking myself off of Paxton here, but again, I think he has enough upside and is worth a look. Now that I'm looking at pricing, though, I think I might a Aaron Nola over him. Yeah, so real quick, just because I'm kind of Star is going to be my top guy on the slate. Noah is probably going to be my second favorite guy just because of his strikeout upside. I think he can, if he can keep his control down and stop the Mets from getting on base, it should be a somewhat low-scoring game. And I think he can keep it under 3 runs, and his salary is just a lot better there. James Paxton, so I think it gives him a little bit better value. I'd probably put James Paxton then at number 4. Danny Duffy probably is the next K upside, but I'm not looking at him just because he's playing against Texas in Texas. Carlos Martinez has some K upside, but again, going up against Milwaukee. Yeah, I think those are going to be the only guys that I'm looking at there. So again, just a quick recap. So it's going to be Syndergaard, then Nola. I'm sorry, Syndergaard, Strasburg, Nola, Paxton. And that's going to be it. Those are going to be only 4 guys I'm going to build my lineups around. So, all right. So that does it for us tonight. Again, I apologize. It was just me. Hopefully I didn't put anyone to sleep. I got really nothing else to say. I know we are working on the Patreon page. Hopefully that'll be up soon. I think I gave us a deadline of the 25th. Like to get more people in the Slack chat. I love bouncing ideas off guys. We use the Fantasy Life app. If you're not familiar with that, check out the Fantasy Life app. If you do check it out, unfortunately, they're going through some issues that are being fixed. And once those are fixed, then you can find us in the DFS DraftKings banter chat. We're in there quite a bit. Some good guys in there. That's where AC came from, who writes our NASCAR content. Yeah, so that about does it. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me personally. My Twitter is Chi, CHI Sports Nut 25, or you can contact any of us at House Money DFS. Yeah, that does it. That wraps it up. Have a good night, everybody. Stay green. And tomorrow's 420. So I personally don't partake in it, but if you do, please make sure you set your lineups beforehand. Or maybe that's a strategy. Get high and then set your lineups. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what to do there, but good luck. Stay green, and peace out, HMFers.